For more on what's ahead for Tesla sales as Elon Musk prepares to make a full return to the company, let's get to longtime bull Dan Ives, Wedbush Securities Managing Director. Dan, it's great to see you here. So draw the line for me, if you would. What does Elon coming back to the company full time do for European sales? How does he fix that problem?
Look, I think the biggest thing with Musk coming back is around leading the autonomous vision. To me, that in terms of the AI vision when it comes to autonomous robotics, I think that's the most important. And that's 9% of the future value. In terms of Europe, China, US, look, Musk being there in terms of, first off, the brand damage, I believe now is contained, and most of that is in the rearview mirror with him out of the Trump administration. But then it's going to be about rebounding sales in these regions, guiding to the next page of growth. But Julie, to me, the biggest thing here, it's much more about what happens in Austin late next week than Europe sales down in a month.
Well, but it's still how they make most of their money, right? The vast majority of their money is made from selling cars. When does that rebound happen? Do we have to get to a year out where they're going to be lapping these declines? Or do you see some kind of rebound happening this year?
Yeah, look, I think second half of the year, you'll see a rebound in China, a stabilization in Europe. So, we'll call it less bad specifically in terms of some of the other countries. And then I think in the US, I think you'll start to see a rebound, especially with some of the refreshers starting in 3Q. So you combine that with what ultimately we see when it comes to autonomous and robotics. I believe a golden age is ahead for Tesla. And that's why we don't worry too much in terms of month to month, some of these things that we're seeing coming out of Europe, relative to our bullish view where this is heading over the coming years.
And Dan, if you look at the stock, it's had a nice move over the past month. It's up about 20% here. What do you chalk that move up to, Dan? Is that the Musk return? Is it the robotaxis coming to Austin that you're referencing?
I think it's the Musk return, right? It all goes back to, we've talked about it. We were doing Julie in the show. Once Musk recommitted to Tesla, days in the White House were done. Tesla got back its biggest asset. And then that coincides with what I view as the biggest error for Tesla in its history in terms of the AI future. I think when it comes to autonomous robotics, I think autonomous alone is worth $1 trillion to the market cap value. And I ultimately believe there's a $2 trillion market cap.
I have to ask you about this Reuters report that came out today. I don't know if you saw this, Dan, but I'm sure you remember last year, Reuters reported that Tesla had abandoned its project of developing a cheaper alternative, right? A cheaper model. And Musk came out and tweeted, Reuters is lying. And the Reuters report today says internally there was mass confusion among management because they had abandoned the plan. And so they were like, but wait, does that mean it's back on? What's going on? And I ask about this because it speaks to the ongoing issue about Musk's credibility, whether it's internal or external to investors. So he's obviously put a lot of eggs into this autonomous basket, into this cyber taxi basket. How do we know if we can believe him that it's going to work?
Yeah, but Julie, I think to that point, that's why this is such a key few weeks, few months, and I think a year ahead, because it's not just about what we see in Austin. It's about the 15, 20, 30 cities that I see robotaxiing over the next year. This just starts, the birth of that vision starts next week. And to your point, look, there's going to be many that will be skeptical. But Musk and Tesla have been here before, back against the wall, proven it again and again. And to that point, in terms of the lower cost vehicle, look, I think that was a decision they had to make. In other words, do you go after, what we'll call it the next gen skateboarding vehicle? I think they decided basically to do more of a refreshed, cheaper Model Y. But I don't think that that's done. In other words, that cheaper sub $35,000 vehicle will still come, just not when investors thought.
And Dan, we're talking Tesla. I also want to get your thoughts on another big name you cover, which is Apple. Their big software show, WWDC, that kicks off next Monday. Dan, what do you expect to hear at that show? Dan, what do you want to hear?
Yeah, and look, and you know it so well, Josh, in terms of Apple. What we expect to hear is laying out the framework and the guardrails and the vision for developers for the AI strategy. I mean, if you go back to a year ago, obviously there were definitely a lot of speed bumps to where we are today. It's given developers what the roadmap and the framework is. When you look at next year, I think that's the most important thing, is the hearts and lungs of Apple. Look, Apple obviously is caught, in tariff sort of storm here. But to me, I mean, that doesn't change my medium or long-term view of Apple. I mean, you still have best installed base in the world, 2.4 billion iOS devices, 1.5 billion iPhones, and the developer network that continues to be, I mean, that's who Cook's talking to next week. And I think that's the important thing, because the consumer AI revolution goes through Cupertino. The enterprise AI revolution goes through NVIDIA, Palantir, obviously others. Consumer AI revolution goes through Cupertino, in my opinion.
And so let me ask you, Dan, because I don't think I got your take on this. When you heard, by the way, that Sam Altman and OpenAI were buying one of Johnny Ives' startups, Johnny Ive, legendary, of course, Apple design guru, how much of it all do you consider that a threat to Apple?
See, I don't view it as a threat. I just view it as the strong are going to continue to get stronger. Big tech, I mean, look, even though like OpenAI obviously partners with Apple, I mean, when you think about it, no one is going to just sit here on the treadmill. Everyone's going to look to acquire, because it's an arms race. It's the fourth industrial revolution. I don't view that as competitive, but it speaks to all men OpenAI. They're not just going to look at where they are today, how they get stronger. Alphabet's doing the same thing. Microsoft as well. And I think Apple, this is a key moment for them to basically say, don't forget about us when it comes to AI.
Dan, always great to see you and to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks.